So in this week's parsha, we're going to do the fourth mamar of the Nesivos Shalom Chayei. And just to go, before we get into it, I think we touched on this once before, and I wanted to do some research on it. The amount that Avram Avinu paid for the Aras HaMachpelah, the actual double cave and all the land around it. So the Arugas Abosim, who lived, I think, 150, 200 years ago, he writes about it that really what he paid for was something in the vicinity of something that should be 2.4 million square amos. And square amma is about a square somewhere between 18 to 24 inches. And he has this whole really extraordinary piece of arithmetic calculation, and he computes everything that basically that each person would be able to, like of 600,000 Jews, each person would be able to have their own daled amos, their own 4 cubits of space. So, and there's somebody who, Reb Shalom, who says that Avram Avinu, it's from a different apartment. Yeah. We get that. It's a child. But Reb Shalom, he suggested that Avram actually did not pay for the field. He actually paid for the cave. That's all he wanted was the cave. But Ephron, according to one shita, is that Ephron, once there was going to be an actual grave there, so he didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore, and therefore he gave him the field too. But Rav Shalom is saying actually that Avram paid the money, the price of there's a certain, in order to be able to buy into a piece of land in the area, you have to be part of like the group. So like think about it like in a moshav or a kibbutz, you got to be accepted before you can purchase something. So that was the formal adaptation into the clan was to him to get the field. And once he got the field, then he can get the so it's like two separate things over here. Now, the fact that it was not a regular 400 shekel, it was 400 shekel over lesocher. Over lesocher means that it's ready for anybody to accept anywhere, like internationally. So the Gemara in Bava Metzia says that 400 shekel kesef is equivalent to 1 million ordinary shekel. Okay, that's what the Gemara in Bava Metzia says. So basically, it comes out to like 161 ounces, or the standard Hebrew shekel, or the actual is like, it comes out to 402,828 ounces, which basically comes out to about, nowadays, that would be worth about close to $13 million. For the amount of, it was very overpriced. Yeah, a bargain, right? So, okay. So so that's the the different research that I did on the actual price of what Avram Avinu paid. But the Nesivos Shalom asks, why is it that the Torah is going into such detail in something that seemingly is okay? It's a plot of land for a burial place. What's the big deal? But we have to realize that it could have been said in such a different way. He didn't have to. The Torah goes into the conversation between the people there, and then he has to find Ephron because he wants that piece of land. Like, what was going on over here? Why is it so important? Why? Okay, so we understand why he wanted the double cave, because he wanted to be able to bury it where Adam and Chava were buried. Okay, that's where Adam and Chava were buried, and that's where Avram was ending up going to be buried, and also his son and his daughter-in-law, as well as his grandson and granddaughter-in-law. So that we get, but why did the Torah have to tell us the whole, dialogue that went in between Avram and Bnei Ches and Ephron and Avram and the whole thing? Why? And we know that every letter of the Torah is very important and holy, and there's nothing that is extra. So the Nesivos Shalom says only very simplistically that we know that Avram Avinu the Torah is telling us about his kindness, okay, and how he was kind with everybody, and how he went out of his way to fulfill and be kind to people and give people, more than the norm. So now the Torah is telling us that not only did he do that with the living, but also with the people that passed, meaning his wife Sarah. So he went out of his way. Okay, that's simplistically. However, to get a little bit more involved in what is said, you can see that the Bnei Ches, who originally Avram confronted to ask about getting a place to bury, and they said, "We'll give it to you, no problem." And he refuses to accept it as a gift, and he keeps on asking for Ephron. But Bnei Ches keeps on referring to it as a place of burial, whereas Avram refers to it achuzas kever, which is a burial estate, right? They just say burial, and he says burial estate. And he keeps on emphasizing burial estate. No, he only wanted the cave. That's all he wanted.
Ephron wanted everything else.
Ephron said, take it with it, but he was only asking for the Marsah Machpelah. So
who's calling it a state?
Avram Avinu.
Oh,
Avram was the one who was calling it a state. So, so therefore, we have to understand why Avram is doing that. Why is it that Avram is going out of his way to emphasize? Why can't he just say, "I need a place to bury my wife"? Why does he have to say, achuzat kever, which means like an estate? So the Nesivos Shalom understands this to tell us that, first of all, we have to understand that according to the grasp, the way a non-Jew was able to grasp this is that basically you have a dead body and you have to get rid of it. You have to put it in a place, in a proper place. That's it. But according to Avram, it was very different. And it was the publicity that he was getting here was huge. And they knew about him. So here they were giving, he was somebody who was very, very famous. And here he's doing this, and he's going out of his way to be, very meticulous in what he wants and how much that he wants to pay, and that he doesn't want to get it for free, and all these things. And the question is, why? So the Nesivos Shalom says that, and I think the Malbim says that this is the first time ever that the Torah hints to the fact that there's going to be afterlife, right? This is where it comes from, because otherwise, why would you go and do this? And this is what Avram was trying to get across, that it's not just a dead body. It's a Jewish soul, and there's going to be an afterlife. There's going to be, so this is a place for eternity. It's not just, because she's going to get up, when it comes time for the resuscitation of the dead. So therefore, this was a way to be able to, that Avram should be able to publicize this altogether. And that's why it has to be done in a way, because it wouldn't be proper to go ahead and get it for free, because that's like, it's like cheapening the mitzvah of this special, here something, she's going to be buried here, interred here for X amount of years, and she's going to come up from here too. It has to be something special, and therefore to get it for free is not okay. so that was like let's talk about last respects. He could have bought it. He could have got it for free. He could have bought it at a regular price, or he could have bought it in the price that he was asking, which was exorbitant. But go ahead and pay it the regular silver, not the silver that was, 2 point so many more times more the regular. So, and then he goes into more depth. He says that when a non-Jew owns a piece of land, so then this piece of land has in it impurity. Because therefore to go ahead and more so when it's a piece of land from Israel, a piece of land of Israel. That's why there's, especially doing it in the old city. I think it's called the Yeshivas Eteros Kohanim. I think they do it. They try to go out of their way to raise money to buy pieces of land within the old city of Jerusalem that are owned by Arabs or non-Jews to buy it up. Okay, so we see that a non-Jew that's holding a piece of land, not that it's anything wrong for them to own it, but that's a regular piece of land, so that therefore it should be bought before taking it out from that impurity to be able to bury someone. But more so, in Eretz Yisrael, it's even much more important because it takes away from the Kedusha, from the holiness of Eretz Yisrael. And so in order to do that, it cannot be that you're just, acquiring the land by digging into it. Like, if I get a piece of land from, my brother gives me a piece of land, I can acquire it by, planting, by, doing something. That's a way of acquiring, according to the Torah. But we're taking it out from a non-Jew's ownership and bringing it out from Tuma, impurity, to Kedusha, to holiness. It has to be bought with the full price. And then he says also, like, what was this whole thing of why is it so important that he couldn't accept gifts? We see that in Proverbs, in Mishlei, it says, "Sonei matanos yichya." A person who hates gifts will live. However, we see, and I wrote this down, we see that there is different times throughout these parshas and brachas. In this week's parsha, we see that Eliezer, Avram's servant, and this was surely with Avram's consent and maybe command, he gave him a lot of stuff, and he gave him a contract that whoever gets, whoever Yitzchak is going to end up inheriting everything from Avram. So he had that contract with him. So he was very, very rich, even after purchasing the crazy amount that he spent on the Marsa Mechpelah. So we see that Eliezer gives gifts to Rivka and to her family. So he's giving gifts. And then we see continuing that at the end of the parsha, we see Avram Avinu giving gifts to the sons of Keturah, his sons of Keturah, right? Through he remarried after Sarah passed away, and he was giving gifts. And then we see that Avimelech took cattle and sheep and servants and maidservants and gave it to Avram, and Avram accepted it, right? And then when what David Yosef was mentioning last week about Imrina Chasiat Lamanita V'Avarech, and so Rashi says over there, so that they should give me gifts, and therefore we see that he was accepting gifts. So why is it all of a sudden now that he doesn't accept gifts? So we explained a little bit. Then we see also by Sdom, he said, "I don't even accept one shoelace from you." He said to the king of Sdom. And Rabbi Bachye says that he explained that Avram was not accepting the gifts because of the Maras Machpelah, because Sonim Matanas Yicheh, because he was a person that hated accepting gifts. So where's the differentiation here? When can we accept gifts and when can we not? So the halacha that's brought down that basically that if we accept gifts, then therefore we have this ability to, think about things that maybe aren't ours, and we think about like we desire, we have an envy for them, and maybe even if we don't get it, we might start thinking about taking it or extracting it without, or maybe talking somebody into getting it, even though they don't really want, which is another form of stealing. But then we also see by the so that's one side, to be able to that we shouldn't have bad thoughts or of taking something that is not ours or something like that, or even just desiring it. As we know, is one of the 10 Commandments, not to be jealous and desire something that's not ours, right? But also, there's another thing of the fact that if I really trust in Hashem, then I don't need somebody's gifts, right? I'll be able to get it myself because Hashem, right? So that's basically what he's talking about. But then he ends off by saying something very, very interesting in regards to the fact that we know that it says that Avram kept the whole Torah, right? So how do we know this, right? And also there are many midos, the different things of the way we should be, whether it be vis-a-vis our friends, whether it be in kindness and doing chesed, visiting the sick, and all these things that aren't, it's not explicit at all in the Torah. It's not written in the Torah. All these attributes that we should have, it's not written in the Torah. It's, hints to it, but no commandments. It's something that we should figure out. So how do we figure that out? So there's the pasuk says, "V'asisa tov v'yashar b'einei Hashem." We should do the good and the righteous in the eyes of Hashem. So how do we know what's good and what's righteous in the eyes of Hashem? So it says, "Nishmas adam telamdenu," that the neshama of a person can teach him. Okay, what does it work? What does that mean? So he brings the famous Gemara in Shabbos, where Hillel was confronted. Well, first Shammai was confronted and was by a non-Jew and saying, I want you to teach me the Torah on 1 foot, like in just a minute. So Shammai just disregarded it, whereas Hillel patiently told him that whatever you don't like, don't do to your friend, and the rest is all explanations. So what did that mean? So the word means to your friend, but lechavercha also means, again, the holiness of the Lashon Kodesh of the original Hebrew is that each word actually has a deeper meaning. Why am I a friend of yours? Is because I have a connection. And chaver also means chibur, to connect. Okay? So your connection with Hashem, right? What is it going? What I'm about to do something? Is it going to, help and make me closer to God, or is it going to make me further from God? Whatever I'm doing, and if I have that in mind before I do something, it's a huge difference, right? I think about it, like we can figure it out. And why can we figure it out? Well, we have a little part of Hashem in us. We have a part of Hashem in us. Our soul is really godly, right? So therefore, that's what it means when it says neshama, nishmas adam telamdenu, that the neshama of a person can teach us. So therefore, if a person has that, like Avram did, and therefore he can tell, this is right, this is not okay, this is good. And just like we say in our first brachos and brachos HaShachar, we say Hanosein lasech vivina ben yom ben laila, right? That Hashem gives to the rooster understanding to be able to know the difference between night and day, not just because it's getting light, because the rooster makes all his sounds way before it gets light, right? It's actually the darkest part of the night, but he understands that it's going to be, it's right before morning, right? And yeah,
Well, I don't want to sound like a total contrarian here, but
you can go ahead.
okay, but I don't put so much faith in people being able to decide on their own what's right or wrong. Okay, just by their inner feelings, and that little saying of on one foot, or whatever is hateful
To yourself,
don't do to others. Well, a lot of people do some very hateful things that they don't consider it hateful for themselves,
so that means
and also would not find it hateful for others. So how does that work? It sounds like it would make more sense to say whatever Hashem finds hateful in His eyes, do not do
when I
to
okay.
others.
So let's be real. When I do
Does that make
something,
any sense?
of course,
Is that contrary enough?
yeah, but the thing is like this: we have to be honest with ourselves. When I did something wrong, when I did something, forget about, let alone something that I did to a friend that I shouldn't have done. But even, in my room and nobody's around and I'm doing something that Hashem doesn't want me to do, right? I know deep down that I shouldn't be doing it. Maybe I didn't give it much thought, and I should have, but that doesn't matter. Whether it's during the time or right afterwards, or a little while, I know and I understand that I did something that I shouldn't have done, right? I wasted time. I could have done something else. I could have learned Torah. I could have helped somebody. I could have, I said, oh, I'm busy with something. When somebody asked me for a favor, I had the time. I could have pushed other things off that and still made time for everything, right? So we have to be honest with ourselves. So when a person goes ahead and does something, you can ask that on everything. What Hashem says. Does everybody do what Hashem says? I wish. We don't. We don't do what Hashem says, but we know what's right. Deep down, we know what's right, whether it's written in the Torah or not. No, we do. We do. Every person has common sense. They do. You think the person that did something wrong thought that it was totally right what he was doing? Something that he did.
People like that before, yeah.
No, they if they don't see, okay, it could be they don't have the knowledge base, but stealing or embezzlement, they know for sure.
We have enough examples in history of
100%.
that
100%.
exactly what they were doing by murdering people was completely the right thing to do.
Okay.
They believed it 1,000%, and they did it.
Okay, but
Fully.
so there are things that that's not, meaning you're mixing two things up. You're mixing two different things. Number one, we were talking about
To do that, yeah.
we're talking about things that are not written in the Torah. If somebody's going to go and kill somebody, it's written in the Torah not to kill. There's nothing to talk about. Somebody go and steal and say that he feels that it's self-righteous. He should be doing it. He should be, because this person doesn't deserve the money, and therefore he's going to go ahead and steal the money from him.
What a person feels on their own.
No. But let's differentiate.
Is higher than Torah.
Let's differentiate. No. I'm trying to differentiate because you're talking about something that's written in the Torah, and someone goes ahead and goes against it. That's not, it's written in the Torah. And that's what you were saying. We should go according to what God says, not what we say, right? Okay. However, the things that are not written in the Torah, how do we figure that out? Right? How do we figure it out?
Yeah.
Things that are not written in the Torah, for instance, kindness, different things that we know. How do we figure it out? Because we have a part of Hashem in us, and we can figure out what is really what Hashem wants me to be doing now, and what He doesn't want me to do now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's different. But when we were talking about actual black and white, what the Torah says do and not do, then it's obvious. Yeah, if the person can say from here to tomorrow he feels it's right, to be doing something so wrong, but the Torah says not to. That's not, that wasn't your original question. Right? Your question was how does a person figure it out? And that's how, yes.
Yeah, I don't always trust them to figure it out on their own.
We have to trust ourselves. We're not talking about other people. I have to worry about your physical being, and I have to worry about my own.
I'm just saying, I just don't trust them or me to necessarily be able to figure it out.
I trust you.
What is it?
I trust you to trust yourself.
It's your mistake.
Okay. Anyway, Bezat Hashem, we should all be zoche to vasisa hayasher v'atov b'nei Hashem, to do the righteous, the good and the righteous in the eyes of Hashem, and be zoche to be as called tzedek b'mher v'minu.